My name is Diane Morrison, and I'm about to tell you how a stranger walked into my Baltimore brownstone and tried to erase me from my own life. I'm 59 years old, and this house on Maple Ridge Lane has been mine for 28 years. Every floorboard, every repainted wall, every repaired leak. Mine. I bought it with my late husband, Jonathan, back when we were young and hopeful, and thought we had all the time in the world. We raised our daughter here. We celebrated anniversaries here, and when he passed away 12 years ago, I stayed. Because this house isn't just walls and windows. It's memory, it's legacy, it's proof that I survived. But 2 weeks ago, my daughter Olivia showed up at my door with a suitcase and someone I'd never met before, and suddenly everything I'd built felt threatened in a way I never saw coming. It was a Thursday evening, around 7. The air was crisp, autumn settling in with that particular scent of dried leaves and approaching winter. I was in the garden, trimming my lavender bushes, the ones I'd planted the year Jonathan died, because I needed something to care for, something that would grow despite the grief. My hands were covered in soil, my old gardening gloves worn thin at the fingertips, when I heard the gate creak open. That sound, that specific creak, I'd been meaning to oil those hinges for months. I turned, and there she was, Olivia, my only child, with her auburn hair tied back in a messy bun, exhaustion written all across her face, dark circles under her eyes, shoulders slumped forward, like she was carrying something heavy. And next to her stood a woman I'd never seen before. Tall, maybe 5'8", with sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, perfectly styled blonde hair that looked expensive, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was dressed impeccably. Designer jeans, cream cashmere sweater, leather boots that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Everything about her screamed polished, controlled, calculated. "Mom," Olivia said, her voice strained, tired in a way that made my chest tighten with worry. "This is Sienna. Her apartment lease got terminated early, just for a few weeks until we sort things out." I stood up, pulling off my gloves, dirt still under my fingernails. Sienna extended her hand immediately, her grip firm, her skin cold despite the mild temperature. "Mrs. Morrison," she said, her voice smooth, professional, like she was conducting a business transaction. "Olivia's told me so much about you. This house is absolutely charming." That word felt carefully chosen, slightly patronizing, like she was assessing property value, rather than offering a genuine compliment. I shook her hand anyway, feeling that immediate instinctive discomfort that your body gives you before your mind catches up. You know that feeling? When someone seems perfectly nice on the surface, but something underneath doesn't quite align? "Of course," I said, forcing warmth into my voice, because Olivia looked so desperate, so hopeful that I'd welcome this stranger. "Come in, both of you." I led them inside through the back door, into my kitchen, where I'd spent countless mornings making pancakes for Olivia when she was little, where Jonathan and I used to dance while cooking dinner, where I'd cried alone after the funeral. My kitchen, my sacred space. The moment Sienna stepped through my door, I felt it. Like the air pressure had changed. Like the house itself was taking a breath and holding it, waiting. She didn't ask where to put her bag. She didn't wait to be shown around. She didn't pause at the threshold like most guests do, taking in someone else's home with respectful observation. She just walked in like she'd been here before, like she already knew the layout, like she had every right to be here. Her eyes moved quickly, scanning, cataloging, assessing. The vintage clock on the wall, the copper pots hanging above the stove. I saw her taking mental inventory, and something about it made my skin prickle. "I'll make tea," I said, needing something to do with my hands, needing a moment to process what was happening. By the time I'd filled the kettle, set it on the stove, and retrieved my good china, the kind I saved for actual guests, Sienna was sitting at my kitchen island like she owned it. She'd pulled out her phone, some expensive model I didn't recognize, and was scrolling through it with perfectly manicured nails. Olivia hovered near the doorway, wringing her hands, watching me with those pleading eyes that had worked on me since she was 3 years old. "How long do you think you'll need to stay?" I asked gently, handing Olivia a cup of chamomile tea, her favorite since childhood. Sienna answered before my daughter could open her mouth. Just until we find a place together.
A couple weeks, maybe 3, 4 at most. Together.
That single word hung in the air like smoke. I looked at Olivia, waiting for her to explain, to fill in the massive gaps in this story. Olivia finally spoke, her voice small. We're planning to move in together, Mum. Sienna and I. We've been dating for 6 months. 6 months. 6 months and I was just now meeting her. 6 months and Olivia had never mentioned her name, never brought her to Sunday dinners, never even shown me a photograph. That fact alone should have told me something. I smiled, even though my chest tightened with a feeling I couldn't quite name yet. Protectiveness? Suspicion? Hurt that my daughter had hidden this relationship from me? That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm happy for you. But I was watching Sienna. Her eyes were pale blue, almost grey, and they held a kind of cold calculation that made me uncomfortable. She wasn't looking at me like her girlfriend's mother. She was looking at me like an opponent, like someone who needed to be assessed, measured, potentially outmaneuvered. I served dinner that first night, because that's what I do. That's what I've always done. When people come to my home, I feed them. It's how I show love, how I create connection, how I make people feel welcome. I'd marinated salmon that morning, not knowing we'd have guests, but I always cook like someone might show up. Old habit from when Jonathan would bring colleagues home unexpectedly. I made grilled salmon with a honey lemon glaze, roasted Brussels sprouts with balsamic reduction, wild rice with toasted almonds and dried cranberries. Simple, but thoughtful. The kind of meal that says I care, without saying I'm trying too hard. Sienna barely touched it. She pushed the salmon around her plate with her fork, examining it like it might be contaminated. She picked at a Brussels sprout, took one tiny bite, and set her fork down. "Do you have anything lighter?" she asked, her tone suggesting my cooking was somehow too heavy, too much, too unsophisticated. Like a Buddha bowl vibe, maybe, something more plant-forward. Plant-forward, that's the exact phrase she used. Olivia laughed nervously, that uncomfortable sound she makes when she's trying to smooth over tension. Sienna's really into clean eating, Mum. She's been helping me with my diet, too. Helping her. Like Olivia needed help. Like my daughter, who'd always been beautiful and healthy and confident, somehow required intervention. I nodded slowly, setting down my own fork. I can make something else. I have salad ingredients, plenty of vegetables. No need, Sienna said, pushing her plate away entirely, the food barely touched. I'll just have the salad, and maybe some lemon water? Regular water has so many impurities. I got up without a word, made her a salad, squeezed fresh lemon into filtered water, and watched her eat with the precision of someone performing a ritual. Every bite measured, every movement controlled. After dinner, I excused myself to get fresh towels from the upstairs linen closet. When I came back down, arms full of my good guest towels, the ones with the embroidered edges that had been a wedding gift, I found Sienna in my hallway. She was moving my framed photographs, pictures of Olivia as a child, gap-toothed and grinning at her 5th birthday party. Pictures of Jonathan and me on our honeymoon in Greece, young and sunburned, and so in love it hurt to look at now. Pictures of 3 generations of my family at Christmas, everyone gathered around this very house. She'd slid them all to the side, creating space in the center of my antique console table, and was placing a small ceramic sculpture there instead. Something modern, abstract, vaguely unsettling. All sharp angles and cold white porcelain. It balances the energy, she said without turning around, like she'd sensed me standing there, watching her redecorate my home without permission. Feng shui. The flow was blocked. My jaw tightened. Those photos have been there for years. She turned then, giving me that smile again. Professional. Empty. I know. But change is good though, right? It keeps things from getting stagnant. Stagnant. My memories were stagnant. I'd prefer they stay where they were, I said, keeping my voice level, polite, giving her the benefit of the doubt, that maybe she just didn't understand boundaries. Of course, she said easily. Too easily. Your house, your rules. She just walked away, leaving me standing there with my arms full of towels, staring at my husband's face, now partially hidden behind her cold, white sculpture. I waited until I heard her footsteps on the stairs above me. Then I carefully moved all the photographs back to their rightful places, adjusting each frame until they sat exactly where they'd been for years, where they belonged, where Jonathan had helped me hang them one Sunday afternoon, arguing playfully about whether they were level. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at Jonathan's picture. His warm brown eyes, that crooked grin that always made me feel safe. If he were here, what would he say? Would he tell me I was overreacting? Or would he see what I was beginning to see? Later that night, I sat in my bedroom, the door closed, sitting at the vanity where I'd gotten ready for my wedding, where I'd taught Olivia how to braid her hair, where I'd cried after Jonathan's funeral. I picked up my phone and texted my best friend, Celeste. We'd known each other since college, survived divorces and deaths and decades together. Someone just moved into my house and I already feel like a guest. 3 dots appeared immediately. Celeste was a night owl. Always had been. Document everything. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong, it probably is. I stared at that message for a long time. Document everything. Like this was already a situation that might require evidence. The thought sent a chill through me. But I couldn't dismiss it. I opened a new note on my phone and typed, Sienna arrived with Olivia. Rearranged hallway photos without asking. Criticized dinner. Dating Olivia for 6 months, but I'm just now meeting her. It felt paranoid, excessive, but I saved it anyway. The next morning, I woke up at 6:30 like always. I'm an early riser, always have been. I like my mornings quiet, meditative. Coffee brewed slowly in my old French press, whole wheat toast with butter from the local dairy, maybe NPR on low volume. Time to think, to plan my day, to exist in my own space before the world makes demands. But when I stepped into my kitchen, still in my robe, my feet bare on the cool tile floor, everything was different. My coffee maker was gone. Not broken, not moved, gone. In its place sat a sleek espresso machine, all chrome and buttons and complexity. The kind of machine that requires an instruction manual and probably costs more than my monthly utility bill. My wooden cutting board, the one Jonathan had bought from an artisan at the farmer's market, scarred from decades of use, seasoned with oil and memories, had been replaced with a pristine marble one, cold, impersonal, expensive. Even my dish soap was different. My simple, unscented, environmentally friendly soap had been swapped for something in a minimalist bottle that smelled like mint and eucalyptus and what I can only describe as judgment. Sienna was sitting at my counter in silk pajamas that probably cost more than my entire sleepwear wardrobe, typing on a laptop I hadn't seen before. She had a green smoothie in front of her, something thick and vaguely threatening looking. Morning, she said without looking up, her fingers continuing to move across the keyboard. I stood there, frozen, looking at my kitchen that suddenly wasn't mine anymore. Where's my coffee maker? I upgraded it, she said, like this was a favor, like I should be grateful. That old one was so inefficient. This one makes much better coffee, better crema, better temperature control. It was mine. She finally looked up, eyebrows raised slightly. I know, but this one's better. You'll love it once you learn how to use it. In my own kitchen. I'd like my old one back, I said, keeping my voice steady. She sighed, a small sound of disappointment, like I was being difficult, like I was the problem here. I already donated it. It was taking up space, and honestly, Diane, it was pretty dated. This is an investment in better quality. She'd called me Diane, not Mrs. Morrison, just Diane, like we were peers, friends, equals in this house that was mine. I'd raised Olivia alone through teenage years and college applications and heartbreaks. I'd built a career as a medical transcriptionist, working from home, keeping this house running, paying every bill, surviving every loss. I'd renovated this kitchen myself, stripping old linoleum, installing tile, painting cabinets at 2 in the morning because I couldn't afford to hire help. And now I was being told I was set in my ways by someone who'd been here less than 24 hours. "I'd like my things back where they were," I said evenly, carefully, giving her one more chance to hear me. Sienna sighed again, more dramatically this time. "Sure, if it's that important to you." But she didn't move. She didn't stop typing. She didn't acknowledge that she'd crossed a line. She just continued working on whatever was so important on that laptop, dismissing me in my own kitchen. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. When Olivia came downstairs an hour later, hair wet from the shower, I pulled her aside into the dining room. "Sweetheart, Sienna replaced my things without asking." Olivia rubbed her eyes, already looking tired though the day had barely started. "It's just a coffee maker, Mom." "It's not about the coffee maker." "Then what is it about?" I hesitated, trying to find words that wouldn't sound petty or controlling. "Respect. Boundaries. Asking before changing someone else's home." Olivia looked torn, caught between loyalty to me and whatever she felt for Sienna. "She's just trying to help. She's really organized. She's good at making spaces more functional. You'll get used to it." But I didn't want to get used to it. This was my home, my space, my sanctuary. Why should I have to get used to someone else changing it without my consent? "How long is she really planning to stay?" I asked quietly. "I told you. A few weeks." "You said she lost her apartment." Olivia shifted uncomfortably. Her roommate situation fell through suddenly. "It's complicated. But we're looking at places together, I promise." I wanted to ask more. Why had her living situation fallen apart? Why was Olivia just now mentioning this relationship? Why did this woman feel entitled to redecorate someone else's home within hours of arriving? But I looked at my daughter's exhausted face and swallowed my questions. "Okay," I said. "Just please ask her to check with me before changing anything else." "I will, Mom. I promise." But that promise felt hollow, even as she said it. By the third day, Sienna had rearranged my entire living room. My grandmother's quilt, hand-stitched in the 1940s, a family heirloom that I kept draped over the armchair where I read every evening, was folded and stuffed in the hall closet. I found it when I was looking for my winter coat, crammed between old umbrellas and tennis rackets, treated like it was nothing. My books, hundreds of them, collected over decades, organized exactly how I liked them, a mix of chronological and thematic that made sense only to me, but was mine, had been rearranged. They were now stacked horizontally in color-coordinated groups, all the blue spines together, all the red, all the cream. It looked like a magazine spread. It was completely useless for actually finding anything.
And my favorite lamp, the one Jonathan bought me during our anniversary trip to Prague 15 years ago. Hand-blown glass with a delicate blue pattern, was unplugged and shoved behind the couch. When I found it there, I carefully pulled it out, checking for damage. I plugged it back in, placed it back on the side table where it had lived for over a decade. Sienna came down the stairs as I was adjusting it. "Oh," she said, sounding mildly disappointed. "I moved that. It didn't fit the vibe I was creating." "The vibe?" I repeated, turning to face her. "Yeah, I'm creating a more cohesive aesthetic." That lamp was really dated, and it clashed with the new arrangement. I stared at her, this stranger in my home, talking about creating vibes in my living room. "This isn't your house." She tilted her head, expression carefully neutral. "But if I'm living here, I want it to feel comfortable. For you, for all of us," she said smoothly, like this was reasonable, like I was being difficult for wanting my own possessions in their own places. "Sienna, this is my home. I've lived here for 28 years. Everything has its place. Everything has meaning." She smiled, that empty professional smile.
I understand attachment to things, but sometimes letting go creates space for new energy. New energy. My grandmother's quilt was old energy that needed to be let go. That evening, I found a package on my porch. Medium-sized box, professionally wrapped, addressed to Sienna Cole. My address, 1847 Maple Ridge Lane, Baltimore, Maryland. No care of. No temporary label. Just my address, written like it was hers, like this was her permanent residence. I brought it inside and set it on the kitchen counter, my hands shaking slightly. Not from exertion, from realization. When Sienna came downstairs, she saw the package and smiled. "Oh good, it arrived." "You're having mail sent here?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Well, yeah. I needed a stable address for a few things. Online orders, subscription renewals, that kind of thing." "You've been here 3 days." She shrugged, opening the package without any sense that this might be inappropriate. "It's easier this way. Forwarding mail from my old place was going to be a hassle." I felt something harden in my chest, a realization settling in like concrete. This wasn't temporary. She wasn't planning to stay a few weeks. She was settling in, establishing herself, creating permanence. "How many things did you have shipped here?" I asked. "Just a few." "Why?" "Because this is my address, not yours." She stopped unwrapping and looked at me fully. "Diane, you're being really rigid about this. It's just mail." "Just mail. Just a coffee maker. Just some furniture rearranging." Each thing by itself seemed small, petty to complain about. But together, they formed a pattern. That night, after Olivia went to bed early, exhausted from working double shifts at the hospital where she worked as a nurse, I heard voices through the wall. My bedroom shares a wall with the guest room. The insulation is old. Sound carries. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard anyway. "She's being difficult," Sienna said, her voice low but clear. "I'm just trying to make things easier, to create a better space, and she's fighting me on everything." "She's just protective of her space," Olivia replied softly, defending me, which made my heart ache with both love and sadness. This house means everything to her. "Or she's controlling. Have you considered that?" Silence. I stopped breathing. "That's not fair," Olivia said finally. "She's my mother. But you're allowed to have your own life, Liv. You're 32 years old. At some point, you have to stop letting her dictate everything." "She doesn't dictate." "Doesn't she? You said yourself you've been scared to tell her about us, that we had to wait for the right time. That's not healthy. That's control." More silence, longer this time.
"She just worries about me," Olivia said, her voice smaller now.
"Or she doesn't want you to grow up. Doesn't want you to build a life outside of her. Some parents, especially single parents, they make their children their whole identity, and then they can't let go. Making herself the liberator who was helping my daughter escape my controlling clutches. I thought about all the times I'd encouraged Olivia's independence. When she wanted to study abroad in college, and I helped her apply for scholarships, even though I'd miss her desperately. When she chose nursing school across the country, and I drove her there myself. Helped her move into her dorm, then drove home alone, crying but proud. When she wanted to move back to Baltimore after graduation, and I helped her find her first apartment, even though I secretly hoped she'd stay with me a while longer. I'd never tried to control her. I tried to protect her, yes. To guide her. But always toward her own freedom, her own choices, her own life. And now this stranger was telling her I was controlling, manipulative, preventing her from growing. "I just think," Sienna continued, "that we need to start setting boundaries with her, making it clear that our relationship is the priority now, that we're building a life together, and she needs to respect that." "She does respect it," Olivia said weakly. "Does she? Or does she see me as competition?" I pulled my hand away from the wall and sat on my bed, staring at Jonathan's photo on the nightstand. What would he do? He was always better at confrontation than me, better at drawing clear lines. I'd always been the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed things over, who sacrificed comfort for harmony. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe I'd spent so long being accommodating that I'd forgotten how to defend my own space. The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in days. I got dressed carefully, as if preparing for battle. Dark jeans, a crisp white blouse, the silver bracelet Jonathan had given me for our 20th anniversary. Armor disguised as normal clothing. I made a decision. I was going to call my lawyer. Her name was Justine Park, and she helped me with Jonathan's estate years ago when he died. Navigating probate, updating the deed to be solely in my name, reviewing insurance policies and retirement accounts. She was thorough, kind, unflappable. If anyone could give me guidance on this situation, it was Justine. I waited until Sienna and Olivia had both left for the day. Sienna had mentioned something about meeting with a potential client, though I had no idea what she actually did for work. Olivia had a shift at the hospital. The house was mine again, temporarily. I sat at my kitchen table, the morning light streaming through the window, and dialed Justine's office. Her receptionist put me through immediately. "Diane," Justine said warmly. "It's been a while. How are you?" "I need advice," I said, dispensing with pleasantries, "about my house." "Okay, what's going on?" I explained everything. The sudden arrival, the rearranging, the mail, the comments I'd overheard. As I spoke, hearing it all laid out chronologically, it sounded almost absurd. Was I really calling a lawyer about someone moving furniture and ordering packages? She didn't dismiss my concerns. She listened carefully, asking clarifying questions, taking notes. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "How long has she been there?" 5 days now. "And she's receiving mail at your address?" "Yes, multiple packages." "Has she paid you anything? Rent, utilities, groceries?" "No, she offered once, but I refused." "Good," Justine said firmly. "Don't accept any money from her." "Why?" "Because in Maryland, if someone establishes residency, it gets complicated fast. You need to act before that happens." My stomach tightened. "How fast?" "Fast enough that you shouldn't wait." If she's receiving mail, staying for more than a few days, and contributing financially in any way, she could argue she's established tenancy. And once that happens, you can't just ask her to leave. You'd have to go through a formal eviction process, which can take months. Months. The thought made me feel sick. What should I do? You need to serve her with a notice to vacate. It's a formal document that states she has 30 days to leave the property. I can draft one for you, today. 30 days. That felt like forever. 30 more days of this tension, this invasion, this slow erosion of my own home. It's the legal minimum in Maryland for someone who's staying as a guest. But Diane, the longer you wait, the stronger her claim becomes. If you do this now, at 5 days, it's clearly a guest situation. If you wait until she's been there a month, she could argue she's a resident with rights. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. Serving legal papers to someone my daughter was dating. It felt nuclear, extreme. But what was the alternative? Waiting until she'd been here so long I couldn't remove her. Until my own house felt completely foreign. "Do it," I said. "Draft the notice. I'll have it ready by end of day. You can pick it up, or I can email it for you to print. I'll come get it. I want the physical document." "Okay, and Diane? Start documenting everything. Keep a journal, dated entries, every incident, every comment, every boundary crossed. If this goes to court, you'll need evidence." "You think it'll go to court?" "I think people who move into someone else's home and start receiving mail after 5 days don't usually leave quietly." That sentence hung in the air between us like a prophecy. After I hung up, I sat at the table for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I opened my phone's notes app and began writing in earnest. Day 5. Called Justine Park. She advised formal notice to vacate. Sienna has rearranged living room, replaced kitchen items, received 3 packages at this address. Overheard conversation suggesting she views me as controlling obstacle to Olivia's independence. My hands shook slightly as I typed. This felt real now. The beginning of something that would change everything. Later that afternoon, I drove to Justine's office downtown. Her practice was in a restored brownstone, all exposed brick and polished wood floors. She met me in her conference room, a thick folder already prepared. "This is the notice to vacate," she said, sliding it across the table. "It's addressed to Sienna Cole, lists your property address, states that she's required to vacate within 30 days of receipt. You need to serve it to her directly, ideally with a witness present. I'd recommend having Olivia there when you do it." I stared at the document. It looked so official, so serious. Legal letterhead, formal language, my name as homeowner clearly stated. "What if she refuses to leave?" I asked. "Then we file for formal eviction," she said. But most people leave when served with proper notice. They don't want the hassle or the legal expense. And if she claims she's a tenant? That's why we're doing this now. At 5 days, with no lease, no rent payments, and no agreement, she's legally a guest who's been asked to leave. If she stays past the 30 days without your permission, she's trespassing. I nodded, trying to absorb all this information. Should I tell Olivia first? Before I serve it? Justine considered this. That's your call, but from a legal standpoint, it's better to serve it with Olivia present. She needs to witness that you did this correctly, calmly, following proper procedure. Otherwise, Sienna could claim you were threatening or hostile. The thought of serving this in front of my daughter made me feel ill. But I understood the logic. "There's one more thing," Justine said. "Check your homeowner's insurance. Some policies cover legal costs if you need to pursue eviction. It might save you money if this goes further." I took the folder, heavy with implications, and drove home. The whole way, I practiced what I'd say. How I'd stay calm. How I'd make it clear this wasn't emotional or petty, just necessary. When I got home, I hid the folder in my bedroom, in the drawer of my nightstand, where I kept Jonathan's old watch and my important documents. I couldn't risk Sienna finding it before I was ready to serve it. That evening, both Olivia and Sienna came home around the same time. I heard them laughing together in the hallway, and something about that sound, that easy intimacy, made my chest ache. My daughter was happy, and I was about to explode that happiness with legal paperwork. But I thought about what Justine had said. The longer you wait, the harder it gets, the stronger her claim becomes. I had to do this, not just for my house, for my sanity, for my sense of self. I waited until after dinner. I'd made something simple: pasta with marinara sauce, garlic bread, salad. Sienna had actually eaten this time, though she'd made comments about the pasta being refined carbs and wondering if I had zucchini noodles instead. After we'd cleaned up, I asked them both to sit in the living room with me. "I need to talk to you both about something," I said, trying to keep my voice level. Olivia looked immediately worried. "What's wrong?" I retrieved the folder from my bedroom, my hands steady despite my racing heart. When I came back downstairs, they were both sitting on the couch, Sienna's arm around Olivia's shoulders. I sat in the armchair across from them, the folder in my lap. "Sienna," I said, looking directly at her, "when you arrived, we agreed this would be temporary. A few weeks, while you sorted out housing." "Right," she said carefully, her posture straightening. "But you've begun establishing yourself here in ways that concern me. You're receiving mail at this address. You've rearranged my home without asking. You've replaced my belongings. And I've heard you discussing me in ways that suggest you see this as a longer-term arrangement." Olivia's eyes widened. "Mom, what are you?" "Let me finish, sweetheart." I pulled out the notice to vacate. "This is a formal notice asking you to leave the property within 30 days. The room went completely silent. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked loudly, marking seconds that felt like hours. Sienna's face went through several expressions. Surprise, then understanding, then something harder. "You're serious?" "Yes." "You're kicking me out?" "I'm asking you to leave." "Yes." Olivia stood abruptly. "Mom, what are you doing?" "Protecting my home. She's my girlfriend. And this is my house." Sienna reached for the document, and I handed it to her. She scanned it quickly, and I saw the moment she realized It was legitimate, legal, properly formatted. Her jaw tightened. "You went to a lawyer," she said. "Yes." She laughed once, a sharp, bitter sound. "This is unbelievable. I've been here less than a week, during which you've received mail, rearranged my home without permission, and made it clear you're planning a longer stay." "I was trying to help," she said, her voice rising. "To make things better, and this is how you repay me?" "Repay you? For what? For invading my space?" Olivia looked between us, her face pale. "This is insane. You can't just throw her out." "I'm not throwing her out. I'm giving her 30 days' notice, which is more than legally required for a houseguest." Sienna stood now, folding the notice carefully. Too carefully. Her hands were shaking slightly, and I realized this was the first time I'd seen her composure crack. "You know what this is really about?" "By me, by our relationship, by the fact that Olivia's building a life that doesn't revolve around you. This has nothing to do with my relationship with Olivia." "Doesn't it? You've been alone for how long? 12 years? And now your daughter finally has someone, and you can't handle it." That hit hard, not because it was true, but because it was designed to hurt. "Sienna," I said quietly, "I want Olivia to be happy. I want her to build a life, but not at the expense of my own." "Your own life? You mean your life of sitting alone in this house, clinging to memories, refusing to move forward?" "Stop," Olivia said, her voice breaking. "Both of you, just stop." We were locked in now, past the point of politeness. "I'm moving forward just fine," I said. "In my own home, at my own pace. What I won't do is let someone I barely know take it over." "Take it over?" Sienna's voice dripped with sarcasm. "I moved some furniture. I updated some appliances. I tried to create a more functional space. That's not taking over. That's contributing. You changed things without asking. You dismissed my feelings about it. You made me feel like a guest in my own home." "Because you are behaving like one," she snapped. "Like someone who's afraid of change, afraid of life, afraid of anything that disrupts your carefully controlled little world." Olivia was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "Please stop." I looked at my daughter, at her pain, and wanted to back down, wanted to say forget it. Stay as long as you need. I'm sorry for making this difficult. But then I remembered the folder in my nightstand. The deed with my name on it. The mortgage payments I'd made alone for 12 years. The life I'd built here. "Olivia," I said gently, "I love you. You know that. But I have to do this." "Why?" she whispered. "Because if I don't, I'll lose myself." Sienna grabbed her bag from the floor. "Fine, if that's how you want to play this, we'll play. But you should know, I've been researching tenant rights. Establishing residency isn't as hard as you think. Especially when someone has been staying somewhere, receiving mail, contributing to the household. You haven't contributed financially," I pointed out. "Not yet, but I was planning to. In fact, I have receipts for groceries I bought, cleaning supplies I purchased. I've been documenting too, Diane." My stomach dropped. She'd been preparing for this. Maybe not this exact scenario, but she'd been building her own case. 30 days, I said firmly. "That's what the law allows me to require, and I'm acquiring it." She walked toward the door, then turned back. "You know what's sad? I actually liked you at first. I thought you were strong, independent, but you're just scared. Scared of being alone, scared of being replaced, scared of anything that threatens your control." "I'm not scared of those things," I said quietly. "I'm scared of you." That landed. Hard. Her expression shifted, something flickering across her face that I couldn't quite read. Then she walked out, slamming the guest room door behind her. Olivia stood in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself. "I can't believe you just did that." "Sweetheart, no, don't. You just humiliated me. You just humiliated the person I love, in front of her, with legal papers. She was establishing residency, Liv. If I waited—" "I don't care about your legal reasons," she was shouting now. "I care that you couldn't give her a chance, that you couldn't try to work it out, that your first instinct was to call a lawyer." "It wasn't my first instinct. I tried talking. I tried setting boundaries, She ignored all of it. Because you're impossible to live with. The words exploded out of her. You're so set in your ways, so rigid, so unwilling to compromise. No wonder, Dad. She stopped abruptly, hand flying to her mouth. The unfinished sentence hung in the air between us. No wonder Dad died, would have been frustrated with me too. Go ahead, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Finish it. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Tears were streaming down both our faces now. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Your father loved this house, I said. He loved what we built here. He would understand why I'm protecting it. Would he? Or would he tell you to compromise? To be flexible, to prioritize relationships over control? This isn't about control. It's about survival. It's about fear, she said. And I don't know if I can stay here and watch you push everyone away. She walked upstairs, and I heard 2 doors close. Hers and Sienna's. I sat alone in my living room, the notice to vacate still on the coffee table, and wondered if I'd just destroyed my relationship with my daughter, to save my relationship with the house. The grandfather clock ticked steadily, marking time, indifferent to human drama. And somewhere upstairs, I could hear muffled voices. Planning, strategizing. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the confrontation over and over. Olivia's words echoed in my mind. You're impossible to live with. No wonder, Dad. What had she been about to say? No wonder Dad died wanting to escape me. That couldn't be true. Jonathan and I had our disagreements, sure. What couple doesn't after 20 years together? But we were happy, solid. He died of a heart attack, sudden and cruel, while fixing the fence in the backyard. There was no warning, no chance to prepare, no gradual decline. Just alive one moment, and gone the next. But doubt has a way of seeping in through cracks you didn't know existed. Had I been too rigid even then? Too controlling? Had Jonathan felt suffocated by my need for order, for routine, for things to stay in their proper places? No, I pushed the thought away. Jonathan loved me. He understood me. He'd chosen to build a life with me, in this house, raising our daughter together. I couldn't let Sienna's manipulations and Olivia's angry words make me doubt everything I knew to be true. At 6 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. I made coffee in that expensive espresso machine I still didn't know how to use properly, fumbling with buttons and steam wands, finally producing something that tasted bitter and weak. I missed my old coffee maker with an intensity that seemed ridiculous, but felt completely real. I sat at the kitchen table and continued my documentation. Day 6, served formal notice to vacate. Olivia reacted with anger. Sienna claimed she'd been documenting and preparing for potential tenant rights claim. Situation escalated. Daughter's words suggested I'm too rigid, too controlling. Relationship severely damaged. My hand shook as I wrote. This was supposed to protect me, but it felt like I was losing everything in the process. Around 8, I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps, but heavier than usual. Dragging sounds. I went to investigate and found Sienna coming down the stairs with a large suitcase. Leaving already? I asked, hope and relief flooding through me. She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. No, just consolidating, moving things around, getting organized. She walked past me into the kitchen and began going through the cabinets, not searching for breakfast, reorganizing. What are you doing? I asked. Creating a system since I'll be here for 30 days. I want my things separate from yours. Clear boundaries, right? Isn't that what you wanted? She started pulling out my dishes, stacking them on one side of the counter. Then she began placing her own items, things I hadn't even realized she'd unpacked, on empty shelves. Her mugs, her plates, her organic, non-toxic, sustainably sourced everything. Sienna, stop. She didn't. I'm just establishing my space. You have yours, I have mine. Fair. None of this is your space. She turned to face me, her expression calm, but her eyes hard. Actually, for the next 30 days, I have legal right to be here. That's what your notice says. I have 30 days, and I'm going to use every single one of them. The realization hit me like cold water. I'd given her 30 days thinking she'd leave quietly, quickly, as soon as she found another place. But she wasn't going to leave. She was going to dig in. She was going to make those 30 days as difficult as possible. Why? I asked. Why would you want to stay somewhere you're not wanted? Because you don't get to just push me out of Olivia's life. This has nothing to do with Olivia's life. This has to do with my house. It has everything to do with Olivia. You're trying to separate us. To make her choose, and I'm not going to make it easy for you. Before I could respond, Olivia came downstairs. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "What's going on?" she asked. "Your mother's upset that I'm organizing the kitchen," Sienna said, her voice sweet, reasonable, completely different from the tone she'd used with me moments before. "I'm upset that she's reorganizing my kitchen without permission," I corrected. Olivia looked between us, then at the chaos of dishes and items spread across the counter. "Can you both please just stop? I can't handle this." "I'm trying to," I said. "But she's—" "Both of you," Olivia interrupted, her voice rising. "I can't be in the middle of this. I can't be the referee. I'm going to work, and when I come back, I want this resolved. Or at least I want peace." She grabbed her bag and left without breakfast, without coffee, without looking at either of us. The door closed, and Sienna and I stood on opposite sides of the kitchen, the counter full of displaced dishes between us, like a border. "You're hurting her," Sienna said quietly. "So are you. I'm fighting for her. You're fighting against her." "No, I'm fighting for myself." She studied me for a long moment. "What are you so afraid of, Diane? That she'll love me more than you? That she'll choose me?" "I'm afraid," I said slowly, carefully. "And that when you get whatever it is you really want, she'll be the one who gets hurt." "You don't know me." "Exactly." She smiled, and this time it was genuine. Not kind, but genuine. "Well, you're going to get to know me really well over the next 30 days. She left the kitchen, leaving the chaos behind for me to clean up. And I realized she was right. This was going to be the longest 30 days of my life. Later that morning, I decided to take action. I couldn't just sit around waiting for Sienna to systematically dismantle my life. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I opened my laptop and did what any rational person in the modern age does. I searched for her online. Sienna Cole Baltimore. The results were surprisingly sparse. A LinkedIn profile that listed her as a lifestyle consultant and wellness coach. Her profile picture showed her looking polished and professional, with testimonials from people I didn't recognize praising her ability to transform spaces and optimize living environments. Optimize living environments. That phrase made my skin crawl. I kept searching. A Facebook profile, but it was private. An Instagram account, but also private. She was careful about her digital footprint, which seemed significant. Most people in their 30s had some public presence online, but Sienna had locked everything down. Sienna Cole tenant rights. Sienna Cole eviction. Sienna Cole residency dispute. Nothing came up. But that didn't mean nothing existed. It just meant she was smart enough to keep her name out of public records or news articles. I was about to close my laptop when I noticed a forum post from 3 years ago. Someone with the username LifestyleS29 had posted in a landlord-tenant dispute forum, asking detailed questions about establishing residency, what constituted tenant rights, how to fight eviction notices. The writing style was similar to Sienna's, precise, strategic, slightly condescending. And the number 29. Sienna was currently 32. 3 years ago, she would have been 29. But the coincidence felt too strong to ignore. I screenshotted the forum post and added it to my documentation. Then I texted Justine. Found a forum post that might be relevant. Can't prove it's her, but seems suspicious. Should I be more concerned? She responded quickly. Yes. Document everything. If she has history of this behavior, it strengthens your case if this goes to court. Keep looking. I spent the rest of the morning searching, but found nothing else concrete. Just a growing sense that Sienna Cole was very, very good at getting into people's homes, and very, very difficult to remove. That afternoon, packages started arriving. Not just 1 or 2. 5 packages, all addressed to Sienna Cole at my address. I opened the door to find them stacked on my porch. Large boxes, medium boxes, envelopes. I didn't accept them. Instead, I called the post office. I'd like to refuse delivery on packages addressed to someone who doesn't live at this address, I said. The postal worker on the phone was sympathetic, but firm. Ma'am, if the address is correct and the packages have been delivered, they're considered delivered. You can mark them return to sender and put them back in your mailbox, but we can't retroactively refuse them. I marked every single package, return to sender, addressee does not reside here, in thick black marker, and hauled them back to the mailbox. When Sienna came home and found them there, she stood at the end of the driveway, staring at the marked boxes. Then she pulled out her phone and took pictures, documenting, just like she'd said. She carried the boxes inside anyway, completely ignoring my markings. Those are going back, I said. They're addressed to me, she replied calmly. At this address, which is my legal residence for the next 29 days. This is not your legal residence. Actually, the notice you served me says I have 30 days of residency. So yes, it is. I wanted to scream. Instead, I called Justine again. She's twisting the notice to vacate, I explained, claiming it establishes her as a resident for 30 days. Justine sighed. That's not how it works legally, but she's smart. She's creating a paper trail that suggests residency. Every package, every receipt, every piece of documentation makes her case stronger if she decides to fight this. What do I do? Exactly what you're doing. Document everything. Refuse to accept any payments from her. Don't let her contribute financially in any way. And most importantly, don't engage, don't fight. Don't give her ammunition to claim you're creating a hostile environment. Don't engage. That was easy to say, hard to practice, when someone was systematically taking over your home. That night, Olivia came home late. She looked even more exhausted than she had that morning. She dropped her bag by the door and just stood there, swaying slightly. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" I asked, moving toward her. Needed the distraction. "Have you eaten?" She shook her head. I heated up leftover pasta, poured her a glass of water, and sat with her while she ate. We didn't talk about Sienna. We didn't talk about the notice. We just sat together in the kind of comfortable silence we used to share before all this started. "Mom," she said finally, pushing her empty plate away. "I don't know what to do." "About what?" "About everything. About her, about you, about this whole situation." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You don't have to do anything. This is between me and Sienna." I feel like I'm being torn in half. I never wanted that. I know, but it's happening anyway. She pulled her hand back and rubbed her eyes. She says you're trying to control my life, that you can't handle me being independent. What do you think? She was quiet for a long time. "I think you're scared. I think you've been alone for a long time, and the thought of me moving out, building a life with someone else, terrifies you." "You're not wrong," I admitted. "I'm scared of being alone. I have been for 12 years. But that's not why I served that notice." "Then why?" "Because she's taking over, Liv. Not just physically rearranging things, but taking over. And I realized that if I let her, this house, these things, this space, it's not just property. It's who I am. It's the life your father and I built. It's my identity." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "But I love her, Mum." "I know, and I love you." "So what am I supposed to do?" I wanted to tell her to choose me, to see Sienna for what she was, to end the relationship and move on. But I couldn't say those things because they weren't my choice to make. "You're supposed to figure out what's true," I said instead. "Pay attention. Watch how she handles conflict, how she treats boundaries, how she responds when she doesn't get her way. And then make your own choice." She nodded slowly, then stood up. "I'm going to bed." Okay. I love you. I love you too, Mom. She went upstairs and I sat alone at the kitchen table, wondering if love was going to be enough to survive this. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. The next morning, I discovered something that made everything worse. I went into my office to check some financial documents and immediately knew something was wrong. The room felt different, disturbed. My filing cabinet, the one where I kept all my important papers, was slightly open. I never left it open. Ever. I pulled open the drawer and found my papers rearranged. Not obviously, not carelessly, but definitely moved. My homeowner's insurance policy was on top when it should have been filed under I for insurance. My property deed was slightly askew in its folder. Someone had been going through my private documents. I checked the door. The lock showed scratches around the keyhole. Recent, fresh scratches. Sienna had been in here. She'd either picked the lock or somehow gotten a key. My hand started shaking. Not from fear, from rage. This was beyond rearranging furniture or receiving mail. This was invasion of privacy. This was potentially illegal. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. The scratches on the lock. The rearranged files. Everything. Then I texted Justine. She broke into my office. Evidence of lock tampering. Documents were accessed. Justine called me immediately. Did you confront her? She asked. Not yet. Don't call the police and file a report. This crosses a line from civil dispute into potential criminal activity. Will they take it seriously? Depends on the officer, but you have evidence. Scratches on the lock, documents out of order, and a house guest you've already served notice to vacate. Yes, call them. I made the call. 2 officers arrived within 30 minutes. They were professional, thorough, taking photos of the lock, asking detailed questions about what had been accessed. Has anything been stolen? One asked. But my private documents were definitely reviewed. And you've asked her to leave? Yes, I served a formal notice yesterday. They exchanged a look. Ma'am, this complicates things. If she's claiming residency. She's not a resident, I interrupted. She's a house guest who won't leave. Understood. But legally, she has been staying here. She's receiving mail here. That does give her some rights, even if they're limited. So you're saying she can break into my office, and I can't do anything about it? We're saying it's complicated. We can file a report, which we will. But pressing charges for unauthorized entry into a room in a house where she's currently staying, even against her will, that's going to be a challenge to prosecute. I felt the frustration building. So what do you suggest? Document everything, which you're doing. Consider changing the locks on important rooms. And wait out the 30 days. Once she's officially trespassing, you have more options. They left after filing their report, and I stood in my violated office feeling helpless and angry. When Sienna came home that afternoon, she found me sitting in the living room waiting. We need to talk, I said. Okay. Stay out of my office. I don't know what you're talking about. The lock has fresh scratches. My documents were moved. You were in there. She looked directly at me, her expression calm. I have not been in your office. You're lying. You're paranoid. I stood up, every muscle tense. The police were here today. I filed a report. For the first time, I saw genuine surprise cross her face. Just for a moment, then it was gone, replaced by that careful neutrality. On me? You broke into my private office. I did no such thing. Then explain the scratches on the lock. Maybe they were already there. Maybe you're looking for reasons to paint me as a criminal. I'm not looking for reasons. You're providing them. She stepped closer, her voice low. Be very careful, Diane. False accusations can backfire. If you can't prove I did something, publicly accusing me can be considered harassment. I have evidence. Circumstantial evidence, not proof. We stood facing each other, the air thick with tension and unclear threats. Then Olivia walked in, her mother and her girlfriend facing off in the living room, both visibly angry. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice thin with exhaustion. "Your mother called the police on me," Sienna said, her voice trembling slightly now, victimhood replacing confrontation. "She's accusing me of breaking into her office." "Mum, did you really?" "Someone tampered with my office lock and went through my private documents. Yes, I called the police. Yes, I filed a report." Olivia looked at Sienna. "Did you?" "No," Sienna said, and she sounded completely sincere. "I would never." "Then who did?" "Maybe your mother is so stressed about me being here that she's seeing things that aren't there." I wanted to scream. She was so good at this, so practiced at shifting blame, at making me seem unstable, at positioning herself as the victim. "Olivia," I said carefully, "come look at the lock." We went to the office together, leaving Sienna in the living room. I showed Olivia the scratches, the displaced documents. "These scratches weren't there before," I said, "and I never leave these files like this." Olivia studied the lock, her expression troubled. "I don't know, Mum. I mean, maybe they were there and you just noticed them now?" "They weren't. Because seeing it would mean confronting difficult truths about someone she loved." "You're right," I said finally. "I don't know for sure. But I know what I know, and I'm protecting myself." I walked out of the office and went to my bedroom, locking the door behind me. I couldn't be around either of them right now. I needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out my next move. Through the door, I heard muffled voices, Sienna's tears, or what sounded like tears. Olivia's comforting murmurs. The sounds of my daughter choosing someone else over me. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop. I had 28 days left. 4 weeks. And I needed to survive them without losing my daughter or my mind. This time, I looked for legal advice forums, tenant dispute cases, anything that might give me an advantage or at least help me understand what I was up against. And then I found something. A news article from 5 years ago in Philadelphia. Tenant dispute ends in court victory for homeowner. I clicked on it, and my heart started racing. The article described a woman named Sienna Coletti, who had moved in with an elderly couple, initially as their daughter's friend, then refused to leave. She'd claimed tenant rights, received mail, contributed to bills. The case had gone to court, and she'd lost, but only after 6 months of legal battle. Coletti, Cole, similar names, similar strategy. I searched for Sienna Coletti Philadelphia, and found more. Small mentions in court records. Always the same pattern. Move in as a guest, establish residency, refuse to leave. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Justine with shaking hands. Her response came quickly. "If this is the same person, this changes everything. We can argue pattern of behavior. Can you confirm identity?" I needed a photo, something to compare to the news articles, which had included a small, grainy image of a woman leaving court. I thought about where Sienna might keep photos. Her room, obviously, but I couldn't go in there without risking everything. That would be genuine invasion of privacy. Then, I remembered. Social media. Even if her accounts were private, maybe someone she knew had posted something public. I searched for Sienna Cole and clicked on her Facebook friends list, which was visible even though her profile wasn't. Then I started looking through her friends' public posts. And I found it. A post from 8 months ago. A group photo at a restaurant. Great catching up with old friends. Several people tagged, including Sienna Cole. And in the photo, unmistakably, was the same face from the Philadelphia news article. Same sharp cheekbones, same calculating eyes. Just 5 years older. It was her. I couldn't sleep after discovering Sienna's history. I lay in bed with my laptop, reading every article, every court record, every scrap of information I could find about Sienna Coletti, who had apparently changed her name to Sienna Cole at some point. The pattern was chilling in its consistency. She targeted people through personal connections, always through a daughter or son, always as the romantic partner. She'd move in temporarily, establish residency, then refuse to leave. the legal battles dragged on for months, costing the homeowners thousands in legal fees and emotional devastation. In the Philadelphia case, she'd stayed for 9 months before being forcibly removed. The homeowner had suffered a minor stroke from the stress. In a case from Pittsburgh 2 years later, she'd left after 3 months, but only after extracting a settlement payment of $5,000. She was essentially a con artist, but one who operated in a gray area of tenant law that made her difficult to prosecute criminally. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file and emailed it to Justine at 3 in the morning. Then I finally closed my laptop and tried to sleep, though my mind kept racing. When I came downstairs at dawn, I found Sienna already in the kitchen. She was making breakfast. Not for herself, for all of us. Pancakes, fresh fruit, coffee. The domestic scene was so jarring after what I'd discovered that I just stood in the doorway, staring. "Good morning," she said brightly. "I thought I'd make a peace offering. I know things have been tense." I didn't move. "Where did you live before Philadelphia?" Her hand paused mid-flip of a pancake, just for a second, then she continued smoothly. "I'm from Ohio originally. Why? And after Ohio? I moved around a bit. Why the interrogation? Because I know who you are, Sienna Coletti." The spatula clattered into the pan. The mask slipped, just for a moment, and I saw pure calculation in her eyes. Then she recovered, turning to face me. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Philadelphia, 5 years ago, the Hendersons. You moved in as their daughter Emily's girlfriend, claimed tenant rights, fought eviction for 9 months. That wasn't Pittsburgh, 3 years ago. The Martins. Same pattern, same strategy. You've been digging into my past. Your past is relevant when it's happening in my present. Those situations were completely different." "Were they? Because it looks to me like you have a pattern of moving into people's homes and refusing to leave, of manipulating the legal system to stay as long as possible, of extracting money before you finally go." Her expression hardened. "I was in legitimate relationships. Those people tried to throw me out without cause. I protected my rights. You targeted vulnerable people and exploited housing laws. I defended myself against homelessness. Twice, in the exact same way. That's not defending yourself. That's a business model." She stepped toward me, and I saw something new in her face. Not the composed professional, not the victimized guest. Something colder, more calculating, more real. "What are you going to do with this information?" she asked quietly. "I'm going to make sure you leave in 30 days, and that you don't get a penny from me in the process." She smiled, and it was genuinely unsettling. "You think finding some old news articles changes anything? I have legal standing to be here. You gave me 30 days. I'm going to use all 30. And unless you want me to make those 30 days very, very uncomfortable for everyone involved, you'll back off."
It's not a threat. It's a reality check.
"You want me gone? Fine. I'll leave when the time is up. But if you keep harassing me, keep digging into my past, keep calling the police, I'll make sure Olivia knows exactly what kind of controlling, paranoid mother she has. She already knows who I am. Does she? Or does she just know the version you've shown her? The poor widow, the devoted mother, the protector. What if she knew about the times you tried to control her relationships in college? The boyfriend you chased away, the job opportunity you convinced her to turn down?" My blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" "Olivia talks to me, late at night, when she's tired and vulnerable. She tells me things about how you've always been overly involved in her decisions. How she moved across the country, partially to get away from you. How she came back because she felt guilty leaving you alone." "That's not true? Are you sure? Because from where I'm standing, you've spent her entire adult life making her feel responsible for your loneliness. And now that she's finally building something that doesn't revolve around you, you can't handle it. Get out of my house," I said, my voice shaking. "In 28 days, legally." She turned back to the pancakes, flipping them calmly, like she hadn't just threatened to destroy my relationship with my daughter. "Now, would you like some breakfast?" I made plenty. I couldn't be in the same room with her. I went back to my bedroom and called Justine, not caring that it was barely 7 in the morning. She answered on the third ring, her voice foggy with sleep. "Diane? I found her history. She's done this before, multiple times, and she just threatened me." I heard rustling. Justine waking up fully. "Slow down. What kind of threat?" I explained the entire conversation, trying to keep my voice steady. When I finished, Justine was quiet for a moment. "Okay," she said finally. "This is actually good. Not the threat part, but the confirmed pattern of behavior. We can file for an expedited removal based on her history and the implied threats. Will it work?" "It's not guaranteed, but it's a strong argument. Judge sees someone with multiple tenant dispute cases, currently in another one, making threats. They're more likely to side with the homeowner. How fast can we move on this?" "I'll file today. We might be able to get a hearing within the week." After hanging up with Justine, I sat on my bed and tried to process everything. Sienna wasn't just difficult. She wasn't just boundary challenged. She was practiced, experienced, potentially dangerous. And my daughter was in love with her. I heard Olivia's door open, her footsteps on the stairs. Sienna's warm and friendly, explaining that she'd made breakfast. Olivia's tired but grateful. I forced myself to get dressed and go downstairs. I couldn't hide in my room. This was my house. When I entered the kitchen, they were sitting together at the island, eating pancakes. Sienna had her arm around Olivia's shoulders. They looked like a couple, like partners, like people who belonged together. "Mom," Olivia said, her voice cautious. "Sienna made breakfast." "I see that. There's plenty if you want some." I poured myself coffee, still using that complicated espresso machine wrong, producing something too strong and bitter, and sat at the kitchen table instead of the island. Physical distance. "Olivia," I said carefully, "can we talk?"
Alone? Sienna's arm tightened around Olivia's shoulders.
"Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of me. We don't keep secrets." "I'm not asking you," I said, looking at my daughter. "I'm asking Olivia." Olivia hesitated, then gently moved out of Sienna's embrace. "Okay, let's talk in the dining room." We moved to the next room, leaving Sienna at the island. I closed the French doors, giving us privacy. "What is it, Mom?" Olivia asked, and she sounded exhausted. Not just tired. Soul-deep exhausted. "I need to tell you something about Sienna. Something I discovered." Please don't start listing reasons why I shouldn't be with her." "This is about her history." I explained what I'd found. The Philadelphia case, the Pittsburgh case, the pattern of moving in and refusing to leave, the name change from Coletti to Cole. Olivia listened, her expression shifting from skepticism to confusion to something I couldn't quite read. "You're saying she's done this before?" she asked quietly. "Yes, multiple times." "And you think she's doing it to us? To me?" "I don't know. Maybe she genuinely cares about you. But her history suggests this is a pattern." Olivia sat down heavily in one of the dining room chairs. "I need to see the articles." I pulled them up on my phone and handed it to her. She read silently, scrolling through each one. Her face got paler with each article. "This can't be right," she whispered. "She told me she was from Ohio, but she's lived in Baltimore for years. According to these records, she was in Philadelphia 5 years ago, Pittsburgh 3 years ago. The Baltimore connection is probably through you. She probably moved here specifically to meet you." "How would she even know about me?" "Social media? Mutual friends? I don't know. But Liv, you need to see the pattern." She looked up at me, tears forming. "Or you need to see that you're so desperate to break us up, that you're connecting dots that aren't there. These could be different people. Coletti, Cole, those are different names. Look at the photo," I said, pulling up the comparison I'd made, the grainy news photo next to Sienna's Facebook picture. Olivia stared at it for a long time. "It looks similar, but it's not definitive." "It's her, sweetheart." "You don't know that. You want it to be true because it justifies your behavior, because then you're not the controlling mother, you're the protective one. But what if you're wrong? What if you're destroying my relationship over circumstantial evidence?" I'm not wrong. You can't be sure. We were both standing now, voices raised, years of other tensions bubbling to the surface. I am sure, I said. And even if I wasn't, her pattern of behavior here is enough. She's taking over your life, Olivia. Can't you see that? Or you're so afraid of losing me that you're sabotaging the first serious relationship I've had in years. That's not fair, isn't it? You've been alone since Dad died. 12 years, Mum. 12 years, and you haven't dated, haven't moved on, haven't built any life outside of this house and your work. And now I'm building something, and you can't stand it. The words hit like physical blows, each one landing precisely where they do the most damage. That's what she told you, I said quietly, that I'm lonely and controlling and can't let go. Maybe it's true, or maybe she's manipulating you to isolate you from the one person who's actually trying to protect you. I can't do this right now. I have to go to work. She walked out of the dining room, grabbed her bag, and left without saying goodbye to either of us. Sienna appeared in the doorway. That didn't sound like it went well. Stay away from my daughter. Your daughter is an adult who makes her own choices, and right now, she's choosing me. For now. She smiled. That's all I need. The next few days were a cold war. Sienna and I barely spoke, communicating through notes and terse exchanges. She continued to receive packages, continued to rearrange things, continued to establish her presence. Each day felt like another small loss. Olivia worked constantly, picking up extra shifts, avoiding home. When she was here, she stayed in her room or went out with Sienna. I hardly saw her. On the 5th morning after the confrontation, Justine called. I have good news and bad news. My stomach sank. Bad news first. The judge denied our request for expedited removal. Said the pattern of behavior is concerning, but not definitive enough to override the standard 30-day notice period. And the good news? The hearing is scheduled for 2 days after her 30 days are up. If she's not gone by then, we can pursue immediate eviction with a strong case based on her history. So I still have to endure 23 more days of this. Yes, but Diane, we're building a strong case. If she tries to stay past the 30 days, we'll have everything we need. 23 days, I calculated it out. Almost 3.5 more weeks. It felt impossible. That afternoon, something new happened. I came home from grocery shopping to find people in my house. 3 of them, sitting in my living room, with Sienna. Laptops open. Papers spread across my coffee table. What's going on? I asked, setting down my grocery bags. Sienna looked up, completely comfortable. Oh, Diane, these are some colleagues of mine. We're working on a project. In my living room? It's a shared space, right? You said I could use the common areas. I didn't say you could invite strangers into my home. One of the colleagues, a man in his 30s with thick framed glasses, looked uncomfortable. Should we go? No, Sienna said firmly. We're fine. Diane's just being territorial. This is my home, I said, voice rising. You don't get to invite people here without asking me. For the next 23 days, this is my home too, legally. We stared at each other and I saw the challenge in her eyes. She was testing how far she could push, how much she could get away with. Everyone out, I said, looking at her colleagues. Now. They gathered their things quickly, mumbling apologies, and left. Sienna watched them go, then turned to me. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You're making it impossible. No, I'm simply existing in the space I'm legally entitled to occupy. If that's uncomfortable for you, maybe you should reconsider your hostile approach. You broke into my office. You've invited strangers into my home. You've systematically taken over every common space. Allegedly broke in. You have no proof, and hosting professional meetings in shared spaces is perfectly reasonable. You're just looking for reasons to paint me as the villain. You're writing the script yourself. She smiled. Am I? Or are you so determined to see me as the enemy that you're interpreting everything through that lens? I wanted to throw her out physically. I wanted to call the police again. I wanted to do something, anything, to make this stop. But I remembered Justine's advice. Don't engage. Don't give her ammunition. Document and wait. So I took out my phone and photographed the living room, still disheveled from her meeting. I noted the date and time in my log, and I walked away. But walking away felt like surrendering, and I'd spent too much of my life surrendering to things I couldn't control. Jonathan's death, Olivia growing up and moving away, the loneliness that had become my constant companion. This was different. This I could control. This I could fight. I just had to survive 23 more days. That night I heard Sienna on the phone in her room. The walls were thin enough that her voice carried, especially when she was agitated. I know. It's taking longer than expected. She's more stubborn than the last one. I don't know. Maybe another week before she breaks. No, the daughter's starting to doubt her. Yes, I can probably get at least 3,000 if I play it right. I froze in the hallway, outside her door. Phone already in hand, recording. Look, this one has equity in the house. No mortgage. She's not going anywhere. Exactly. Leverage the daughter's guilt. If I can make it messy enough, she might pay just to make me go away quietly. I know. Patient. 22 days left anyway. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped the phone. But I kept recording until she ended the call. Then I sent the audio file to Justine immediately, typing with trembling fingers. Recorded this just now. She's running a scam. Can we use this? Justine's response came minutes later. Holy shit, yes, this changes everything. If she's planning to extort money, that's criminal. File a police report, first thing tomorrow. This is the evidence we needed. I sat on the floor outside my own bedroom, listening to the recording again. Her voice so calm, so practiced, discussing my family like we were marks in a con. The daughter's starting to doubt her. Olivia. She'd been working on Olivia systematically, intentionally, strategically. Every late-night conversation, every sympathetic comment about my controlling nature, every suggestion that I was the problem, it had all been calculated. I felt sick. But I also felt something else. Clarity. Purpose. Righteous anger. Tomorrow morning, I was going to the police station, and this time I had real evidence. 22 more days. But now I had proof that would end this before the 30 days were up. For the first time since Sienna had walked through my door, I felt like I might actually win. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed listening to that recording over and over, making sure it was clear, making sure every word was audible. If I can make it messy enough, she might pay just to make me go away quietly. The casual cruelty of it, the practiced manipulation, it made my skin crawl. At 5 in the morning, I gave up on sleep. I got dressed in my most professional clothes, navy blazer, grey slacks, minimal jewelry. I wanted to look credible, composed, like someone whose testimony should be taken seriously. I waited until 7, when the police station opened, then drove there immediately. I brought everything. Printouts of the news articles about her previous cases. Photos of the tampered lock on my office. The recording on my phone. My entire documentation log. The officer who took my report was a woman in her 40s, named Detective Sarah Chen. She listened to the recording twice, her expression growing more serious each time. "This is pretty clear evidence of intent to defraud," she said. "Has she asked you for money yet?" "Not directly, but she suggested it indirectly, saying she'd leave quietly if things were resolved properly." I refused. "Good, don't give her anything. This recording, combined with her history..." She tapped the news articles I'd printed. "This is enough for us to investigate potential fraud and extortion." "Can you remove her from my house?" Detective Chen hesitated. "She's not in violation of the 30-day notice you served. But we can bring her in for questioning, confront her with this evidence. Sometimes that's enough to make people like this leave voluntarily to avoid criminal charges." "And if it's not enough?" "Then we build a case. But ma'am, I won't lie to you. These civil-criminal hybrid situations are complicated. We can pursue charges, but actually prosecuting takes time. Months sometimes." I don't have months. I have 22 days left on the notice. Then your best bet is that confronting her with this evidence scares her enough to leave earlier. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was something. Detective Chen assured me they'd follow up within 24 hours, and I drove home feeling like I'd at least taken action. When I got back to the house, Sienna was in the kitchen, making her usual elaborate breakfast. She looked up when I walked in, taking in my professional attire. "Job interview?" she asked lightly. "Police station." Her hand paused mid-pour of her green smoothie. "Again? What is it this time? More paranoid accusations?" "No. This time I have evidence." "Evidence of what?" "Of your plan to extort money from me. Of your phone call last night discussing how to make it messy enough so I'd pay you to leave quietly." The color drained from her face. Then she recovered, setting down the blender pitcher carefully. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I recorded you. I have you on tape discussing how you're running a con, how you're manipulating Olivia, how you've done this before and you're planning to do it again." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You can't record someone without their consent. That's illegal. Actually, Maryland is a two-party consent state for phone calls. But for in-person conversations in your own home, one-party consent is sufficient. I checked with my lawyer before I recorded." That was a lie. I hadn't checked. I'd just recorded out of instinct. But Sienna didn't know that. She studied me for a long moment. "You're bluffing. Play the recording." I pulled out my phone and hit play. Her voice filled the kitchen. If I can make it messy enough, she might pay just to make me go away quietly. I watched her face as she listened, watched the calculation happening behind her eyes. When it ended, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That's taken out of context." "Really? What's the context that makes that okay?" "I was venting to a friend about how difficult you've been, exaggerating my frustration. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed. You discussed doing this before. You mentioned the last one. You talked about $3,000. That's not venting. That's planning. You can't prove anything." "The police seem to think I can." Detective Chen was very interested in your history, especially when combined with this recording. Fear flashed across her face. Real, genuine fear. "You're trying to have me arrested?" "I'm trying to protect myself and my daughter from a con artist." "I'm not." She stopped, recalculating. "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe I came on too strong with the redecorating. But I'm not running a con. I care about Olivia. I wouldn't hurt her." "But you'd hurt me? You'd extort me?" "I never. That recording doesn't mean what you think it means." "Then leave. Leave today, and I won't pursue charges. You'll be gone. This will be over, and we can all move on." I thought maybe, finally, she'd take the out I was offering. Then she said, "No. No? I'm not leaving early. You gave me 30 days. I'm staying for 30 days. And if you try to use that recording against me, I'll argue you illegally obtained it, that you edited it, that you're harassing me. I'll make your life hell for the next 3 weeks. You're already making my life hell. Then I'll make it worse." We stood in my kitchen, locked in a battle of wills, and I realized she was never going to leave voluntarily. She'd rather risk arrest than admit defeat. "Fine," I said. "Stay your 22 days. But I'm giving the police everything I have. And when they come to question you, you're going to have to explain yourself." "I look forward to it," she said, but her voice shook slightly. I left her in the kitchen and went upstairs to my room. My hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through me. I'd confronted her, played my card, and she'd called my bluff. Now I had to wait and see if the police could actually do anything with what I'd given them. Later that day, Olivia came home from work. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her scrubs wrinkled. She went straight upstairs without saying hello to either of us. I gave her an hour, then knocked on her door. "Can I come in?" "I guess." I sat on the edge of the bed, the way I used to when she was a teenager, and we'd talk about school stress and friend drama. "I need to tell you something," I said, "and I need you to really listen." She sighed. If it's more accusations about Sienna, it's evidence. Real evidence this time. I played her the recording. All of it. Her face went through several emotions: confusion, disbelief, hurt, anger. When it ended, she sat up slowly. That's her voice. Yes. When did you record this? Last night. I heard her on the phone in her room. And you recorded her? Secretly. Yes. I know it sounds bad, but Liv, listen to what she's saying. She's admitting she's done this before. She's planning to extort money from me. She's manipulating you to get to me. Olivia pressed her hands against her face. I need to talk to her. Please be careful. She's good at explaining things away, at making you doubt what you heard. I'm not a child, Mom. I can have a conversation with my own girlfriend. She stood up and walked out. I heard her knock on the guest room door, heard it open, heard their voices. Olivia's confused and hurt, Sienna's defensive. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. A confrontation was happening. It lasted about 20 minutes. Then Olivia came back to my room, tears streaming down her face. She says you edited it. That you took pieces of different conversations and spliced them together to make it sound incriminating. That's not true. She says you're obsessed with breaking us up. That you've been trying to manufacture evidence since day one. Olivia, I swear to you, that recording is genuine. Unedited. The police have it now. They're investigating. The police? Her voice rose. You gave it to the police without even talking to me first? I had to. Sweetheart, she's dangerous. Not physically, but financially and emotionally. She's done this to other families. She's doing it to us. Olivia paced the room, shaking her head. I don't know what to believe anymore. Everything's so twisted. You both have evidence. You both have explanations. How am I supposed to know what's real? Listen to your instincts. What does your gut tell you? She stopped pacing and looked at me. My gut tells me I'm exhausted, that I'm caught between two people I love who hate each other, that no matter what I do, I'm going to hurt someone. You're not responsible for this situation. Aren't I? I brought her here. I asked you to let her stay. This is my fault. No, honey. You were manipulated. She targeted you specifically because she knew you had a mother with a house and equity, and I stopped, hearing how paranoid it sounded. But Olivia finished the thought. And she thought she could use me to get to you. Yes. She sat down on the bed, deflated. I need to think. Take all the time you need. I left her alone and went downstairs. Sienna was still in the guest room. The house was silent except for the ever-present ticking of the grandfather clock. 3 hours later, Olivia came downstairs with a suitcase. I'm going to stay with my friend Marcus for a while, she said. I need space from both of you. Olivia. No, Mum. I can't be here right now. I can't be in the middle of this anymore. I need to figure out what I believe, and I can't do that with both of you pulling at me. She walked toward the door. I love you, I said. She paused. But that's not enough right now. Then she was gone. I stood in the empty hallway, feeling like I'd just lost the thing I'd been trying so hard to protect. My relationship with my daughter. The one thing that mattered more than the house, more than my pride, more than anything. Behind me, I heard a door open. Sienna appeared at the top of the stairs. Well, she said softly, now you're really alone. I looked up at her, this woman who'd invaded my home and destroyed my family, and felt something shift inside me. Not defeat, not surrender. Rage. Pure, clarifying rage. You have 21 days, I said quietly. And I promise you, they're going to be the most documented, most legally scrutinized 21 days of your life. She smiled, looking forward to it, but her smile didn't reach her eyes, because she knew, just like I did, that this was war now, and one of us was going to lose everything. The next morning, Detective Chen called. We'd like to bring Miss Cole in for questioning. Can you confirm she'll be at the residence around noon? She should be. She rarely leaves. Good, we'll be there. Also, we ran her prints through the system. Sienna Cole is an alias. Her real name is Sienna Marie Coletti, and she has a record. Nothing major, but several civil judgments against her for unpaid debts, broken leases, and one incident involving check fraud that was eventually dropped. So she is a criminal. Technically, nothing on her record is criminal. The charges were dropped, or settled civilly. But the pattern is clear. We're going to bring her in, question her about the recording and her intentions, and see if we can get her to slip up or admit something prosecutable. At noon, 2 police cars pulled up to my house. Sienna was in the kitchen, of course, making lunch like she had any right to be there. When she saw the officers through the window, her face went pale. Detective Chen knocked on the door. I answered. "Mrs. Morrison, is Miss Coletti here?" "She's in the kitchen." "Is there somewhere private we could talk? You can use my dining room." They went in, and I heard Detective Chen introduce herself. "Miss Coletti, we have some questions regarding statements you made in a recorded phone conversation." "I don't have to talk to you without a lawyer," Sienna said, her voice shaky. "That's your right, but we can have this conversation here informally, or we can bring you to the station. Your choice." A long pause. Then, "Fine, here." They closed the dining room doors, but I could hear muffled voices. The conversation lasted almost an hour. At one point, Sienna's voice rose, angry and defensive. Then, quieter again. When the doors finally opened, Sienna's face was flushed, her eyes red. She didn't look at me as she walked past and went upstairs. Detective Chen came over to where I was sitting, in the living room. We informed her that we're investigating potential fraud and extortion charges. She denies everything, says the recording is taken out of context, but she's clearly rattled. My guess? She'll either leave in the next few days to avoid potential prosecution, or she'll lawyer up and make this very complicated. What should I do? Keep documenting, stay calm, and change your locks, not to keep her out, since she's legally allowed to be here for now, but to secure your private spaces. Make sure she can't access your office or bedroom. I nodded. Thank you. After they left, the house was silent for hours. Sienna stayed in her room. I heard her on the phone several times, her voice low and agitated. Around dinner time, she came downstairs. She looked different, harder, like she'd made some kind of decision. "I want to negotiate," she said. "Negotiate what? I'll leave in 3 days, not 21, 3. But I want $2,000. There it was, the extortion out in the open now. "No," I said. "You want me gone, right? This is your chance. I'm not paying you to leave my own house." "Then enjoy the next 3 weeks. I'll make sure they're memorable." "You do that and you're risking arrest. Are you willing to take that chance?" We stared at each other. "Get out of my sight," I said. She smiled and walked away. That night, I texted Justine about the negotiation attempt. Her response was immediate. "Do not pay. This is exactly what she wants. The moment you pay, you're admitting the extortion worked, and she'll do it again to someone else." I knew she was right, but the thought of 3 more weeks of this made me feel physically ill. I made a decision. I couldn't control Sienna, but I could control my own environment. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community, so we can bring more truthful stories for you. The next day, I hired a locksmith. I had my office door lock changed, my bedroom door lock changed, and I installed a deadbolt on both. Sienna watched from the kitchen, her expression unreadable. "Locking me out of more rooms?" she asked. "Protecting my private spaces. I never tried to get into your bedroom. You tried my office. Allegedly." I now had the only keys to my 2 most important rooms. That small victory felt huge. But that night I discovered Sienna's retaliation. I came home from a quick trip to the pharmacy to find my living room completely empty. Every piece of furniture, every picture, every item, gone. The room was bare except for dust outlines showing where everything had been. I found Sienna in the guest room. Where is my furniture? She looked up from her laptop, innocent. What furniture? Everything from the living room. Where is it? Oh, that. I had it moved to storage. The room needed to breathe. You had my furniture removed from my house? From our shared common space. I thought it would be nice to have an open meditation area. Where is it? Storage facility on Route 40. Unit 237. Here's the key. She held up a small key. I figured you could decide what to bring back and what to donate. I stared at her. This level of audacity so extreme, it was almost impressive. You had no right. I had every right to curate the common spaces during my residency. That's not illegal. It's theft. It's redecoration. And technically nothing's been stolen. It's all in storage, safe and sound. You can access it any time. I called Justine immediately. She was furious. She's escalating because she's scared. The police visit rattled her. But this, unauthorized removal of property, this is actionable. We can file for emergency injunction. How long will that take? A few days, maybe a week. Can I just go get my things from storage? Absolutely. You own them. But Diane, be careful. Document the storage unit. Take photos. And consider having someone with you. A witness. I called Celeste. She met me at the storage facility within the hour. When we opened Unit 237, my heart sank. Everything was there, but it had been deliberately damaged. Scratches on the wooden tables. Tears in the upholstery. My grandmother's quilt had what looked like red wine stained across it. Picture frames were broken. Glass shattered. Oh my God, Celeste breathed. She destroyed everything. Not everything, I said, my voice eerily calm. Just enough to make a point. I photographed everything methodically. Every scratch, every tear, every stain. Then we loaded what we could salvage into Celeste's truck and my car, and took it back to my house. When we pulled up, Sienna was sitting on the porch, waiting. Find everything okay? She asked sweetly. You damaged my property. Did I? Or was it already damaged? Old furniture gets worn out. Maybe that's why you needed a refresh. This wasn't worn out. This was deliberate. Prove it. I carried the damaged quilt past her, into the house. She watched, smiling. Celeste stayed with me while we moved everything back inside. The living room looked sad now, full of damaged furniture and broken frames. After Celeste left, I sat in my scarred armchair and called Olivia. It went to voicemail. Honey, it's Mom. I don't want to drag you back into this, but I need you to know what's happening. Sienna removed my furniture without permission and damaged it. I have documentation, I have photos, and I'm pursuing legal action. I love you, and I miss you. Please call when you're ready. I hung up and looked around my damaged living room. My house that no longer felt like home. 20 days until this nightmare was officially over. But I was starting to wonder if I'd have anything left to call home by then. The next morning, I woke up to find my car had been keyed. Long, deliberate scratches down both sides, deep enough to require professional repair. It was parked in my own driveway, visible from the house. I didn't even need to question who'd done it. Sienna's window overlooked the driveway. I photographed the damage immediately, then called Detective Chen. This was property destruction, clear and simple. She arrived within an hour, examined the car, took photos of her own. Unfortunately, without video evidence, we can't prove who did this, but given the ongoing situation, it's highly suspicious. What if I install security cameras? I asked. Would that help? Absolutely. I'd recommend it. Cover all entry points, common areas, your driveway. Make sure she knows she's being watched. By afternoon, I had a security company installing cameras throughout my property. 6 cameras total. Front door, back door, driveway, living room, kitchen, and hallway upstairs. The installer assured me they recorded continuously to cloud storage, and I could access the footage from my phone. Sienna watched the installation with barely concealed fury. This is harassment, she said. This is security, I replied, after my car was mysteriously damaged on my own property. You can't film private spaces. These aren't private spaces, they're common areas, and perfectly legal. She disappeared into her room and didn't come out for hours. That evening, I reviewed the camera footage from the hallway. At 2:17 a.m. the previous night, Sienna had crept down the stairs, gone outside through the back door, and spent 7 minutes near my car before returning inside. I saved the footage and sent it to Detective Chen. Her response: "This is excellent. We can potentially file vandalism charges now, coming by tomorrow to discuss with her." I felt a grim satisfaction. Finally, concrete evidence. Finally, consequences. But that night, something changed. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the smell of smoke. I bolted out of bed, heart racing, and opened my bedroom door. The hallway was hazy with smoke, not thick, but present, coming from downstairs. I grabbed my phone and ran down. The smoke was coming from the kitchen. I found a dish towel smoldering on the stove. The burner turned to high. I turned off the burner, threw the towel in the sink, ran water over it. My hands were shaking. The smoke alarm hadn't gone off. I looked up and saw why. The battery had been removed. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted arson, or at least intimidation designed to look like attempted arson. I called 911. There's been a fire incident at my home. It's out now, but I need the fire department to assess, and I need police. I believe it was intentional. Within 10 minutes, my house was full of firefighters and police officers. Sienna appeared from upstairs, looking sleepy and confused. "What's going on?" she asked. Oscar-worthy performance of innocence. "The stove was left on with a towel on it," one of the firefighters said. "Smoke detector battery was removed. Someone either wanted to start a fire or scare someone." "Oh my God," Sienna said, hand to her chest. "That's terrifying. Diane, do you think someone broke in?" "No one broke in," I said flatly. "Check the security cameras." We reviewed the footage together. At 2:47 a.m., Sienna had come downstairs, removed the smoke detector battery, placed a towel on the stove, turned on the burner, and gone back upstairs. The footage was crystal clear. Detective Chen, who'd been called to the scene, played it back 3 times. Then she looked at Sienna. "Ms. Coletti, you're under arrest for attempted arson and reckless endangerment." Sienna's face transformed, the mask completely dropped. Pure rage. "You can't arrest me. I live here. I was just making tea and forgot." "The footage shows you deliberately placing a flammable item on an active burner and removing the smoke detector." "That's not making tea. That's creating a fire hazard."
It was just to scare her. I wasn't going to let it actually burn anything.
"So you admit it was intentional?" Sienna's eyes widened, realizing her mistake. "I want a lawyer." They handcuffed her and led her out. She looked back at me once, and the hatred in her eyes was bottomless. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Yes," I said quietly, "it is." After they left, I sat in my kitchen, still smelling smoke, surrounded by police officers and firefighters giving me advice about home security and safety. The adrenaline was fading, leaving me shaky and exhausted. I called Olivia. This time she answered. "Mom, what's wrong? It's 4 a.m. "Sienna was arrested tonight for attempted arson." Silence. Then, what? "The footage, the smoke, the arrest." "I'm coming over," Olivia said. "You don't have to." "I'm coming over." She arrived 20 minutes later, still in pajamas, her face pale. I showed her the security footage. We watched together as her girlfriend deliberately created a fire hazard in my home. When it ended, Olivia was crying. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she was capable of this." "I know, sweetheart." I believed her. Every time you said something was wrong, I believed her explanations instead of you. I chose her over you. You loved her. That's not a crime. But I hurt you. I didn't trust you. I said terrible things. You're here now. That's what matters. We sat together on the couch as the sun came up, not talking much, just being together, slowly rebuilding what had been broken. By noon, Justine called. I heard about last night. This changes everything. With criminal charges pending, we can get an emergency restraining order. She won't be able to return to the house at all, even if she makes bail. How fast can we do that? I'm filing the paperwork now. Should have it by end of day.
By evening, I had a temporary restraining order. Sienna Coletti was prohibited from coming within 100 yards of my property or contacting me in any way. The next day, Olivia and I went through the guest room together, packing up Sienna's belongings. We found disturbing things. Printouts of my property records, notes about my daily routines, photographs of my documents that she'd clearly taken during her unauthorized entry into my office, and a journal, handwritten, detailing her entire strategy. EH, widow, equity in home, daughter with attachment issues. Estimated timeline, 3 to 4 weeks. Target amount, 3 to 5K. Leverage, daughter's guilt and mother's isolation. Backup plan, claim tenant rights if payment refused. Olivia read it with tears streaming down her face. Before she even met me, I said gently. Not you specifically, but someone like you, someone with a mother who had something she wanted. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're trusting. That's different. We boxed up everything and stored it for her to collect once she was released. I didn't want any trace of her in my home. Over the next week, my house slowly returned to normal. I repaired what could be repaired. I replaced what couldn't. I changed every lock again, just to be thorough. I kept the security cameras running. Sienna made bail after 3 days, but with the restraining order, she couldn't come near my property. I heard through Detective Chen that she'd left Baltimore entirely, probably moving on to her next target in another city. The criminal case would take months to resolve, but that wasn't my problem anymore. She was gone. That's all that mattered. Olivia moved back home temporarily while she processed everything. We had long conversations late at night about manipulation, about trust, about how to recognize red flags. She blamed herself, but gradually, with time and therapy, she started to heal. I think I was lonely, she admitted one night, working so much, not having a social life. When she showed interest in me, I wanted so badly to believe it was real. It might have been real for her, in her own way, I said. She might have genuinely liked you, while also using you. That doesn't make it better. No, but it makes it human. 3 months later, I received notice that Sienna had pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment in exchange for dropping the arson charges. She was sentenced to probation and ordered to pay restitution for the damages to my property. I'd never see that money, and I didn't care. She was gone. That was enough. Olivia eventually moved into her own apartment again, but this time closer to me. We rebuilt our relationship slowly, carefully, with the kind of honesty we should have had from the beginning. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, she said over pasta one evening. I'm sorry I was so rigid that you felt like you couldn't talk to me, I replied. We both made mistakes. Yes, but we're here now. One Saturday morning, 6 months after Sienna had been arrested, I was having coffee on my porch when an older couple walked by with their dog. They stopped to admire my garden. Your hydrangeas are beautiful, the woman said. Thank you, they're finally bouncing back. We just moved to the neighborhood, the man added. Still getting to know people. Pleasant, normal. The kind of interaction that happens in neighborhoods everywhere. After they left, I realized I was smiling. My house felt like home again. That afternoon, Celeste came over for tea. We sat in my living room, now fully restored, and she looked around approvingly. You did it, she said. You survived. Barely, I said. But you did, and you protected yourself and your daughter. I almost lost her in the process. But you didn't. That's what matters. I looked around my living room. My grandmother's quilt, professionally restored, back on the armchair. My books in their proper places. Jonathan's lamp from Prague, glowing softly in the corner. Everything that made this house mine. I learned something, I said, about boundaries. What's that? That they're not walls to keep people out. They're foundations to keep yourself intact. Celeste raised her teacup. To foundations, then.
I clinked mine against hers, to surviving. That evening, after Celeste left, I walked through my house slowly. Each room restored, each space reclaimed. I stopped in my office and looked at my filing cabinet, now secured with a new lock. Inside were all my important documents, safe and protected. I thought about Sienna, wherever she was now. Part of me hoped she'd learn something, that she'd change, that she'd stop preying on vulnerable people. But I knew that was probably wishful thinking. People like her rarely changed. They just moved on to the next target. But that wasn't my responsibility. My responsibility was to myself, to my daughter, to this home I'd worked so hard to protect. I made dinner that night, a real dinner, with butter and cream and all the things Sienna had tried to banish from my kitchen. I set the table with my good china. I lit candles. I poured a glass of wine. And I sat alone in my dining room, eating a meal in peace, in my own home, and it felt like victory. Not the kind of victory that comes with cheering crowds or celebrations, the quiet kind, the kind that means you're still standing after everything tried to knock you down. My name is Diane Morrison. I'm 59 years old. I'm a widow, a mother, a homeowner. I've survived loss and manipulation and threats. I've made mistakes and learned from them. And this house on Maple Ridge Lane is mine. Every floorboard, every memory, every hard-won moment of peace. No one will take that from me again. Because I've learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's survival. It's strength. And sometimes, strength looks like saying no. Like drawing lines. Like refusing to surrender your own home, your own peace, your own identity just to keep the peace. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Olivia will find love again, and I'll have to navigate another relationship, hopefully healthier this time. Maybe I'll even date again myself, though that thought still feels foreign after so many years alone. But whatever comes, I know now that I can protect what's mine, that I can trust my instincts. That loneliness is better than invasion. That boundaries are love in action. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks steadily, measuring time, indifferent to human drama. It's been doing that for decades, and it'll keep doing it long after I'm gone. But for now, in this moment, in this house that's mine, I'm at peace. Not because everything's perfect, but because I fought for this peace. I earned it. I protected it. And that makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember that your home isn't just a building. It's your sanctuary, your safety, your sense of self. Never apologize for protecting it. Never feel guilty for drawing boundaries. And if someone tries to take it from you, document everything. Trust your instincts and fight back. Because you deserve to feel safe in your own home. You deserve to own your own life. And that's not selfish. That's survival. And survival, my friends, is the greatest victory of all.